modern data centers, the resource utilization in the modern data centers have improved significantly. So if you look at the evolution of the data center, back in the 90s, networking was a big thing. It was one of the major inventions. And the data center were pretty static, and the resource sharing was kind of a relatively new concept at that point in time. And virtualization came about probably in the early 2000s, and it has changed the data center forever. In terms of resource utilization has become, resource sharing has become kind of the common theme in pretty much all the modern data centers. And the data center has become more dynamic in the sense if you're running an application on host X at this point in time, it might run on host Y probably a couple hours later. So this introduced a lot of challenges in terms of managing that infrastructure. And in the current decade, the cloud computing has become kind of is trying to become kind of the mainstream. And the centralized management and the scaling are the new big problems. In this era, cost and availability are very, very crucial. So while the data centers has evolved, but the IT systems management, the operations management hasn't kept up with the evolution of the data center infrastructure side. So this results in administrators having to use all the retrofitted tools that have been developed a long time ago for the older data centers. And majority of the administrators still write scripts and export the data and do all kinds of number crunching in Excel. I bet about 90% of you would still do that today. So all this, when you're dealing with this kind of scale, you barely have time to keep the lights up and running. You don't have time for these kinds of things when you are managing 1 million types of machines. When you look at the tools that have not caught up yet, all you're doing is reacting to a problem that has bubbled up by these graphs and tables and all these kinds of things. So when you do the ops today, most of the times, since you are in reactive mode, you kind of guess, change, and pray that it works because the tool set that has been given to you is not up to the mark in terms of dealing with the amount of scale that you are dealing with. See, it should be data-driven. Every decision that's being made in the ops should be data-driven, not based on intuition or guesswork or any of that stuff. Can this be achievable? Yeah. So today's data centers, the amount of instrumented data that is available today has gone up by at least 100x compared to the days in the 90s. So if you look at a relatively small data center with about 50 physical servers, about 500 virtual machines, it generates about 1 billion data points a day. And if you look at a large enterprise, it is about 1,000 times more than this. So you can imagine the scale at which you are talking about, the numbers. And there are more than 1 million plus data centers in the world at this point. There are two main challenges for any of the system management software guy to come up with solutions for this. One is data extraction. Since you are dealing with large volumes of data, the data extraction process should not hinder the primary function of the management system. So it has to be sipping data from the system. That's one challenge. Another challenge is the ingress, the ingestion of that data, and providing easy access to that data. So once you achieve those two, the possibilities are endless. For example, how many times have you seen an alarm where you say, hey, your disk is going to run out. It's about 80% full. So you barely have time to figure out how to replace that disk, plan that disk. Imagine a system where you could actually get an advance notice about it in a month. Let's say in a month's time, your disk is going to be about 80% complete. So you have time to plan about those kinds of things. And in the ops world, it's no secret that you have patches, updates coming up pretty much on a daily basis from different vendors. If you're, for whatever reason, you may be running some older versions of hardware that probably not many people in the world are running. So if you know in advance that if you install that patch, you're going to run into some issue, you'll say a lot of grief on that stuff. And another thing is, if you're trying to replace your mechanical disk with SSD drives, wouldn't it be nice if you know how much in terms of performance gain that you're going to get? And if you have a system where you can identify the performance anomalies without you having to look for those kinds of things, it'll be even better. Because All this is trying to do is making you proactive rather than reactive. Thank you.